Welcome everybody to another episode of Jerico's NBA Daily Fantasy Breakdown. As always, thanks for tuning in. To all of my subscribers, shout out to you for helping me grow this thing. The website is NBADailyFantasyPicks.com, and last night we scored a 368.5. A fucking 368.5. That is pretty fantastic. Could have been even better had I made a few little tweaks to the lineup that were more risky. But obviously it was my cash game lineup that went off for 368, which makes it even more incredible. That lineup is actually posted on the website on the front page. I post all my results from the previous day on FanDuel on the front page of my website, so that way you guys can take a look at it if you aren't a subscriber, and you can kind of track how I'm doing if you want to pick and choose when you're getting in. Jimmy Butler, 76 fantasy points last night. 76 on FanDuel, and I think he got 81 on my DraftKings lineup. Fantasy Labs, CSU Ram, whatever the fuck his name is, faded Jimmy Butler. No Pau Gasol, no Derrick Rose. How the fuck do you fade Jimmy Butler? Anyone? Anyone have an answer? I don't. You know why? Because it's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. If you faded Jimmy Butler last night, if you're a newbie, that's cool. If you've been playing daily fantasy for a while, you know if Derrick Rose is out, you roster Jimmy Butler. And if Derrick Rose and Pau Gasol are out and they're playing the Sixers and the spread is close, you definitely roster Jimmy Butler. No shit. All these pros that I was going up against were playing Steph Curry in a fucking blowout against the Lakers. They decided it was a good idea to pay for Steph Curry. Why? I mean, I don't get it. I'm not trying to be a cocky asshole. I mean, I'm pretty level-headed. Why the fuck would you play Steph Curry last night? Maybe I'm missing something. I know his usage goes up if Draymond sits, but you didn't know if Draymond was going to sit. You had no fucking clue. They upgraded Draymond Green from doubtful to questionable. Pretty telltale sign that he might play. So, tracking news is a big part of NBA, and if you're not doing that, you need to start. I should have a news feed coming in the near future that'll post to my Twitter or the website's Twitter if we create one. That should really help you guys out as far as tracking the news. For now, I think Roto World has a feed, and obviously Fantasy Labs has a feed. But everybody knows how I feel about Fantasy Labs. They blocked me for beating them in head-to-heads 4 straight nights. Basically just a bunch of childish pussies that are sore losers, and they don't like getting shown up when their shit loses every night. So on to tonight's slate, we got a lot to break down. NBADailyFantasyPicks.com. I have a bankroll management video. If none of y'all have seen that, you need to check it out. And let's move into today's slate. There's nothing to be pissed off about yesterday because we scored a 368, so I won't dwell on that. Washington at Indiana. You have a 6-point spread and a 204.5 over-under. This game is in Indiana, and Indiana is favored by 6. There is some injury news to keep an eye out on. On the Washington side of the ball, Marcin Gortat is out again, which would give Nene another start. Chris Humphries is also out, which ensures that Drew Gooden's going to get a lot of run off the bench. Rodney Stuckey is going to be out for a couple weeks, it appears, and I think they're going to go with the C.J. Miles starting lineup today, if I'm not mistaken. So C.J. Miles, definitely someone to look at. Otto Porter has been ruled out, which opens up a big clusterfuck of options for the Washington Wizards. It looks like that's pretty much it from that game as far as injuries go. I go position by position now so everybody can follow along. And in this game, I'm going to start with the point guards. George Hill is questionable. And if George Hill sits, you can look for Monte Ellis to handle a lot of the point guard duties. It gives him a bump in usage. And this is not the greatest matchup against John Wall, but he's definitely a guy that I would look at. So Ramon Sessions is not a guy that I'm going to play at 4,400, and John Wall at 9,800 is priced a little bit out of my price range. However, if George Hill sits, I think John Wall becomes a viable play going against Monte Ellis defense. That's definitely something to keep an eye out on because John Wall should absolutely murder Monte Ellis. Let's move on to shooting guard. As I talked about, Monte Ellis, a really decent play at 6,200 on FanDuel, as long as George Hill sits. If George Hill doesn't sit, I'm not as big of a Monte Ellis fan. Garrett Temple is a guy that a lot of people are going to be on, but at 4,800, I'm not going to pay that for him. He's his production is just not that good. His fantasy points per minute aren't that high. I'm not going to touch him. Bradley Beal on a minutes restriction, not going to play him. And Gary Neal, I don't think that I can go there. As I mentioned, CJ Miles is a fine play today, especially if George Hill is ruled out. He is starting, so he's a decent play regardless. But if George Hill's ruled out, I think Miles will get a little extra run and probably throw up a few extra shots. And he is a shooter specifically. That's really all he does. So I'm not big on rostering shooters. For those of you that know me, I do not like taking a chance on shooters, which is the same reason I'm not going to play Oubre here, because all he does is shoot the ball. Paul George. I saw a statistic earlier that if Paul George is out, well, I found a statistic earlier. If George Hill's out, Paul George averages 46 fantasy points per game this year over 4 games. So if George Hill is indeed benched today due to injury, then I'm probably going to plug in Paul George. And I'm going to consider Paul George regardless because Jared Dudley's going to have to guard him. So keep an eye out on that. Even if Oubre tries to guard him, I mean, neither one of those guys really stand a chance. I won't play Dudley. I won't play Buttinger. Let's move on to the power forward position. Drew Gooden is a guy that I was a little unsure of at the beginning of my research, and then I really dove into it, and it looks like the Pacers over the course of the season have given up 45 fantasy points per game to centers, and I think more recently, over the last 3 weeks, they've given up 48 fantasy points per game to centers. And Jan Mahimi obviously has missed some time. He is a great defender. But Jan Mahimi only plays 25 minutes a game, and the rest of the time they go with a bunch of scrubs back there like Lavoie Allen. So Nene is on a minutes limit. He's probably not going to see any more than 25 minutes, and I probably think he gets 22 or so, maybe 23. And that opens up close to 26, 27 minutes for Drew Gooden. Over the course of Drew Gooden's career, he averages 0.9 fantasy points per minute. And if you do the math on that, at 27 minutes per game, he's going to get you value at 3,700. So Drew Gooden is a guy that I really like, a guy that I'm probably going to play because he opens up so many other options. And there's a lot of expensive guys that I really like today. So moving on to center, Jan Mahimi at 5,300 is a fine cash game play. I'm not a big fan of rostering guys that don't get 30 minutes a game. It's just a personal preference. He's been producing. He's been rock solid over the last 10 games or so. So fading him is not really a good idea, especially if you have, $5 to $6 grand left over and you need to buy a center. Center's very thin today. I think Jan Mahimi is a great plug and play. I don't think he's going to kill your lineup. I think worst case, he gets 20 to 22 fantasy points. And at 5,300, that's not going to murder you. So really nice floor. He is coming off an injury, which worries me a little bit. And it's probably the reason that I'm not going to go that route. I think there's other guys that I like a little bit more. But he's definitely worth consideration. And under the center position at FanDuel, DeJuan Blair is the only guy for Washington. And he's obviously not worth a look. Let's move on to the next game. You have Minnesota at Oklahoma City. It looks like it's a 13.5 point spread and a 208.5 over-under. I am not a big fan of targeting guys in big spreads. And for those of you that follow me, you know that. Sometimes it bites me in the ass. I'll agree with that. But for the most part, you want to play guys that are in close games. You really do. That is why I played Boogie instead of Steph Curry last night. And I was one of the only people that did it. He was 19% owned, and Curry was 40 or 50, I think. So close games matter. And when you have a 13.5 point spread, and Oklahoma City's at home, and they're playing a horrible Minnesota team, you have to consider that. Westbrook at 10,500. Even if they do blow him out, I like him for 50 fantasy points, and I'm okay with paying that price tag. I like a few other guys a little bit more that I'll mention later on, so I'm probably not going to pay for Westbrook, but if you like the rest of your lineup and you want to spend up at point guard, I think he's a fine play. I think he's going to get you 50 fantasy points, and I am really okay with that play. Ricky Rubio is too risky, but he makes a fine tournament play, so I'm okay with throwing him in tournaments. Historically, he's done really well against Russell in his career, but the last game he struggled mightily when I played him on DraftKings, for those of you that play my DraftKings lineups. Zach LaVine is a decent tournament option against OKC because it's likely going to be a blowout, and he should get a lot of garbage time in the fourth quarter. Dion Waiters, Andre Roberson, I'm not going to play any of those guys. Moving on to small forward, Shabazz Muhammad. I can't explain this, but a bunch of top professionals that I played against and a bunch of other guys rostered Shabazz last time out. Maybe I'm fucking missing something, but you guys fucking played him at cash. Why? I don't care how good he's been doing. He's Shabazz Muhammad. He doesn't get heavy minutes, and you can't trust him in cash. So Shabazz, if in a tournament, if you're feeling froggy, I'm not going to fucking do it. Kevin Durant at 10K, I'm not going to pay that price tag for him. Andrew Wiggins has been rather consistent lately, but I don't like the matchup against OKC. I'm probably not going to go there. Moving on to power forward, Serge Ibaka's been playing a lot better as of late, but I'm still not going to play him in cash at 6,100. But he does make a fine tournament play for sure. At center, I think there's going to be a lot of guys that take a chance on Enes Kanter, and his volatility is just too much for me. Even though it's likely going to be a blowout, and he'll likely get 20 to 25 fantasy points, I can't trust all my money on that. As much as I try to avoid blowouts, I don't trust all my money knowing that it's going to be a blowout. I can't play garbage time guys just because, but they do make fine tournament options. So I think Enes Kanter definitely fits the bill. Steven Adams, Karl Anthony Towns, none of those guys are really on my radar. The next game is Phoenix at Boston. It looks like Boston's favored by 9.5 at home with a 207.5 over-under. I'm not going to have a whole lot of exposure to this game, mostly because of the spread. But one guy to talk about is Isaiah Thomas. His price has climbed up to 8,600 now. But I listened to Josh Lloyd's podcast for Basketball Monster. For any of you guys that are looking for a good podcast to listen to, he's really good. A lot of knowledge there. But he had mentioned this as a huge revenge factor for Isaiah Thomas. And Isaiah Thomas was really salty when he didn't get the role that he expected in Phoenix. And when they traded him, he wasn't happy about that either. So revenge factors aren't something that I usually buy into either. But Josh Lloyd said it best. This is a revenge factor that you have to look at. Isaiah Thomas is a definite threat for 50 fantasy points tonight. And at 8,600, you have to consider him. I'm not going to go that route, I don't think. But that's only because there's one other guy on the board that I like a lot more. Marcus Smart, no thanks. Brandon Knight, he's a good play at 38 minutes a game lately. I'm okay with Brandon Knight. But again, I don't think I'm going to go there due to the blowout and the fact that Boston absolutely dominates backcourts. So probably not going to go there. Devin Booker is worth a look. At 4,200, his price still hasn't caught up with his production. He's been playing really well. I'm not going to go there, but the guy gets 30 minutes, and you definitely should look at him as a punt play at shooting guard. I just happen to like two other shooting guards a lot more, and one at that exact price point, a.k.a. Gerald Green, that I trust a lot more than Devin Booker right now. Avery Bradley, one of my favorite tournament plays of the night. I'm not quite going to roster him in cash, but in tournaments, I think you really have to consider Avery Bradley as one of the top tier options because he has that 30 to 40 fantasy point upside, and he's priced at only 4,900, and he's going against the Phoenix backcourt. Small forwards, TJ Warren, tournament only. Jay Crowder, his price tag's too high for me. He doesn't produce at a $6,400 clip, and there's better options on the board. If you have it left over and he's the only guy that fits and you love the rest of your lineup, I'm okay with it because he'll get you 30 fantasy points most of the time. PJ Tucker is a nice option in cash. I don't really love him in tournaments. He doesn't have a huge amount of upside, but he's been fairly consistent lately. I just don't trust Hornacek at all. And I'm actually working on building an algorithm where I factor in coach consistency. And when it comes to coaching consistency, Hornacek's probably the worst there is. And he's really not a guy that you're going to want to trust when you're picking your value plays of the night. I don't trust anyone on this team. I really don't. Brandon Knight is probably the only one I consistently trust to get minutes. Power forward, throw any of these guys in a tournament. Teletovic, Lure, Solinger, Markieff Morris, but don't touch any of them in cash. Markieff Morris, they're turning him into trade bait. He's going to be traded. They're just showing him off so they can up his value. So look for him to get a little extended run. Alex Lynn's still out, so Markieff should have a nice game. I like him in tournaments more so than cash. Amir Johnson is good for tournaments or cash. He has that upside. But Phoenix is relatively good against centers, surprisingly. And with Tyson Chandler and Markieff manning the middle for most of this game, as I suspect, I really don't think that Amir Johnson's going to have a great game. And his price has risen up to $5,500. So I'm probably not going to go there. Game number 4, Portland at Brooklyn. 4.5 point spread. 204.5 over under. One of my favorite games of the night. I love targeting Brooklyn. And I kind of like targeting Portland as well. So at the point guard position, Damian Lillard is my top play of the night. Pause. Soak it in. I've been pretty fucking spot on with my top plays of the night lately. Damian Lillard's the fucking man. He's been going absolutely fucking bonkers. And he averages a pretty healthy amount of fantasy points against Brooklyn in his career. And there is nobody in that backcourt. I mean, fucking nobody. I said this yesterday in regards to Jimmy Butler, and still 49 to 55% of people faded him. Nobody can guard Damian Lillard tonight. Giving you my fucking secret. Damian Lillard. Plug him in. Fucking play him. Do not fade Damian Lillard. Or do. Make me some fucking money. I'd love it. I'd love it if Damian Lillard's 20% owned tonight. I'll be the happiest motherfucker on the planet. Please, don't roster Damian Lillard. Just for me. Don't play him. Fade him. Play Westbrook instead. Yeah. Shooting guard. Joe Johnson. Been playing really well as of late. I like him at 5,200, but again, my shooting guard spots are locked up. Look for Joe Johnson to have a nice game. Wayne Ellington, tournament option only. I won't play him in cash. CJ McCollum, too expensive. Alan Crabb, fuck you. Aminu been playing better. Not going to play him. Fuck him. Bogdanovich might be the worst player in the NBA right now. So I won't touch the Bog man. Reminds me of Pogs. Anybody remember fucking Pogs? Am I an old man for knowing that shit? Ed Davis, no. Thad Young, been playing like shit. I can't go there in cash as much as I like the guy. I just can't do it. Thomas Robinson, no. And we arrive at Brook Lopez. I like Brook Lopez. Premium matchup, price is down. Brook Lopez, the fucking man. Plug him in. He's the best center option of the night. It's not even fucking close. Brook, and more fucking Brook. Got it? Good. Mason Plumlee, nah. Myers Leonard, fuck no. Let's move on to game number 5 of 9. Atlanta at Milwaukee. 4-point spread and a fucking 210 over-under. Is this the highest over-under of the night? Highest over-under of the night. Wow. Atlanta at Milwaukee. Michael Carter Dud Williams. I fucking hate MCW. His price is down to 6,700. He's hard to fade. Resist the temptation to play this motherfucker in cash. Yeah, he could get you 50 fantasy points. But he could get you 20. Do you want 20 fantasy points from a point guard slot at 6,700? I don't. I don't care how good the matchup is. His minutes are up and down. His production's up and down. Therefore, I do not play Michael Carter-Williams, especially against the defense of Jeff Teague, Thabo Sefolosha, etc., etc., period. Dennis Schroeder, tournament option only, but priced a little too high at 4,900. Jeff Teague can go fuck himself. Not going to play him. Kyle Korver down to 3,800, worth a tournament throw. Giannis Antetokounmpo, a.k.a. the Alphabet, a.k.a. the Greek Freak, a.k.a. the guy that's on fire lately, a.k.a. the guy I still won't roster in cash because I fucking hate him. He's inconsistent. He's unreliable. Get all jacked up because he's been on fire lately and go fucking roster that piece of shit. I guarantee he throws up 22 fantasy points and shits all over your lineup. Don't play Giannis in cash. Don't do it. Not worth the risk. No thanks. Kent Bazemore, fuck you at 5,700. No way. Chris Middleton. Fuck yeah. 6,900. Guy's on fire. Guy gets like 40 minutes a night. Nobody on the other side of the ball can guard him. Not Bazemore, not Korver. And Thabo coming off an injury. Might be a little bit hobbled and probably not going to see heavy minutes. And Chris Middleton should have a fucking heyday. He's one of my favorite cash game options of the night. Power forward. Paul Millsap looks nice here at 8,400. I like him. Jabari Parker looks nice at 5,100. Both of those guys should be in for nice games. And John Henson is worth 1 or 2 tournament throw-ins. I like him at power forward at 3,600 in a fast-paced game with a lot of points being scored. Greg Monroe. This is a fucking fantastic matchup for Greg Monroe. However, when I roster Greg Monroe in fucking fantastic matchups, Greg Monroe throws up a fucking fantastic dud. Fuck Greg Monroe. Fuck Greg Monroe. And one more time, fuck Greg Monroe. Won't play him. I usually play him on DraftKings because his price is like 1,000 less. So I'm okay with that. But on FanDuel, 7,800 for a guy that sucks a fat dick and never rebounds? No. He can chug cock on someone else's lineup. No thanks. Al Horford, premium matchup, threw up a fucking dud and fucked everybody the other day. I don't see that happening again. I think he's going to have a nice game. But, again, a guy that I really just don't feel warm and fuzzy about when I roster in cash. Charlotte at New Orleans, game number 6, 2.5 point spread, 201 over under. I believe that Tyreek Evans is still questionable, if I'm not mistaken. Al Jefferson, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, both out. Jeremy Lamb is out. And real quick, I thought O.J. Mayo was going to play today. O.J. Mayo's out, so we have to reconsider Michael Carter-Williams a little bit. Still fucking hate him. But now I'll consider him more. I think that's pretty much it for the injuries in this game. Tyreek Evans, I saw somewhere that he thinks he's going to play. So I'm not going to put a lot of stock in him being out this game. That's for sure. Let's look at the point guard position real quick. If Tyreek sits, Drew Holiday is a lock. And if Tyreek plays, Drew Holiday is still a pretty good play. I like Drew. I trust him more than I trust Michael Carter, Dud Williams. Jeremy Lin is a nice play in tournaments at 5,400. Don't trust him in cash. Kemba Walker, too expensive. Fuck you. Eric Gordon, tournament option only, but I really like him. Small forward, Nicholas Batum. I love Nicholas Batum today, but if I play Nick Batum, all my subscribers are going to jump on my fucking back and start crying, and I'm going to have to fucking deal with it if he does. So it's just not worth the hassle for me to roster Batum in cash. He's been too inconsistent. As much as I love him and I think he's going to put up fucking 45 fantasy points tonight, I'm not going to roster him in cash. So you want a sneaky play that's not going to be high on? Put Nicholas Batum in your fucking lineup. I love him. Cody Zeller. I fucking love Cody Zeller. Coach came out and said that Cody has been his most consistent player over the last week or so, and he really likes what he's getting from him at the center position. So Cody Zeller, fine play, even though his price is up to 5,200. Frank Kaminsky, nice tournament option. Anthony baby back bitch Davis. You pussy son of a bitch. You motherfucker. You and your fucking injuries. I mean, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? Are you made of fucking Play-Doh? The fuck is wrong with you? You're an NBA player. NBA. Major leagues. Are you fucking serious with this shit? You dive into the stands, you bruise your fucking back? You bruised your back and you're gonna sit out? A fucking bruise? Are you fucking kidding me? Anthony Pussy Davis. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I mean, what the fuck? Jimmy Butler's ankle was hurt. He played 50 minutes yesterday. He's probably going to play 40 minutes tonight. You see Jimmy Butler walking around crying like a little bitch? I mean, you're a fucking prima donna, fucking grade A pussy. Fuck Anthony Davis. Fuck you. All right, I'm done. Anthony Davis, tournaments only because he's made of glass. I mean, I don't get it. The guy's a fucking... guy's a pussy. Fuck Anthony Davis. Ryan Anderson, no thanks. Plus, he's on the trade block, from what I hear. And there's no options at center in this game. Let's move on to Dallas at Chicago. It is in Chicago. Chicago had to travel overnight from Philly to Chicago. Jimmy Butler played 50 minutes, I believe, and it's a back-to-back. And in my opinion, that's going to scare a bunch of people off of Jimmy Butler. Let me be the first to say this, and you can fucking blow my shit up tomorrow if Jimmy Butler does. But I trust Jimmy Butler with every cent in my FanDuel account. I do. I trust Jimmy Butler. I don't trust Anthony Davis. I don't trust a bunch of other pussies out there that are trying to play through injuries or that are on a back-to-back, a.k.a. LeBron James, you fucking pussy. Oh, I played too many minutes. I've played too many minutes this far into my career. I need a break. My back hurts. Playing basketball for a living, dude. Grow a fucking sack. I mean, seriously. Grow a fucking nutsack. Grow some fucking little balls to stick in that nutsack and man the fuck up. Jimmy Butler mans the fuck up. Jimmy Butler's the fucking man. Jimmy Butler's putting this team on his back. Jimmy Butler called out his own coach and made him look like a fucking bitch, and now Jimmy Butler's the fucking man. I'd pay fucking 10-5 for Jimmy Butler tonight. I don't give a fuck if it's a back-to-back. I don't give a fuck about analytics. I trust Jimmy Butler with my money. Period. Case closed. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Buckets. Jimmy fucking Butler. The man. Could be the fucking MVP if they used him right. And they're starting to. They're really starting to. Jimmy Butler's the man. Last night was not a fucking fluke. Jimmy Butler is the fucking real deal. Point guards. Derrick Rose, he's going to play, it would appear. Looks like he's ruled as active. Probable. Okay, so fuck you, Derrick Rose. I don't care. If Rose and Powell both play and they say Jimmy's going to fucking play 30 minutes, I'd still play Jimmy at 9K. So call me out in the morning if I'm wrong, but I'm rolling with Jimmy. Jimmy. Shooting guard, Jimmy Butler. Yeah, lock that guy in. Wes Matthews, no. I don't like the matchup. No thanks. Mirotic, no. A lot of people rostered him yesterday. I didn't, but sorry that he sucked a fat dick for you. Chandler Parsons, no. Power forward, Pau Gasol is still questionable. If he plays, you pretty much don't want to roster. Well, I don't know. Taj's still worth consideration if Powell plays, but if Powell's out, Taj Gibson's a great play. Dirk is okay, but he's too expensive. Zaza Pachulia, my favorite cash game center of the night. I'm hoping that I can squeeze him in because he literally gets like 33 fantasy points every fucking game, and he's priced at 6,800, and value for 6,800 is 33 fantasy points. So, love me some Zaza. I really do. I trust him more than any other center on the board. Joakim Noah, if Powell is out, you definitely have to consider that guy. Let's move on to the 8th game of the night, second to last. Miami at Denver, 3-point spread and an ugly 193 over-under. I don't want to have a lot of exposure to this game, but Dragic is out. So let's look at Udra. Let's look at Tyler Johnson real quick. One strategy that you can employ tonight if you don't want to pay up at point guard, and I'm one of the only people that actually deploys this strategy occasionally, and that's stacking two guys at the same position on the same team. You can roster Udra and Tyler Johnson together, and you're paying $7,700, I think. So value would be under 40 fantasy points, 38 fantasy points. And I think you can get 38 fantasy points from those two guys combined. So that way, if one takes a lot more run from the other, you're not playing the guessing game, which is likely what you'll be doing if you try to pick between the two of them. I don't think I'm going to roster either just because I'm unsure. And Denver is surprisingly really good against point guards. I can't figure it out. Maybe Moutier is that good of a defender over the course of the season. But I just can't trust it. The numbers just don't point towards either one of those guys being the play. Gerald Green, one of my favorite shooting guards of the night. I like Gerald Green. He's been playing 32 to 34 minutes a game, which is really solid. Dwayne Wade is going to play. If Wade was out, Gerald Green would be a definite lock. Now he's just a good play. Gary Harris has been playing better as of late, but I'm not going to roster him. I won't touch Dwayne Wade or Will the Thrill Barton. Luol Deng's a decent play here, and Gallinari's been on fucking fire. If you pay $7,300 for Gallo, I'm not going to hate you for it. I just don't love the matchup, so I'm probably not going to go there. Chris Bosh is a nice play, but I'm probably not going to pay $8K for him. Kenneth Faried and on, no. Jokic, one of my favorite tournament plays of the night at center, but I'm not going to play him in cash. I think a lot of people will play Hassan Whiteside, and I completely disagree with that in cash. You just don't know where his minutes are going to be at, and Spoelstra has been very inconsistent as far as how many minutes Whiteside plays, and for some reason Whiteside doesn't close out the game a lot of times, so you have to consider that when you're looking at Whiteside. Let's look at the final game of the night, which is one that I really like. I'm really worried about a few things here. I'm looking for injury news because the spread has moved, actually. I wonder why. Cleveland at Houston, it's a 0-point spread and a 204 over under. And I don't know why. Was there... Let me look at my news real quick. Sorry for the delay, guys. I want to make sure I get you the best possible information on why that spread might have moved. I'm not seeing anything. So I think the spread was at 4 or so, and now it's at 0. Is Houston really playing that well as of late for them to be considered against Cleveland? I know it's a back-to-back on the road, so maybe that's what they're taking into account. This really makes me worry about LeBron James' minutes, and if Vegas knows something that I don't. LeBron James is probable. So, God, this is really sucks because I wanted to play LeBron tonight, but now the back-to-back and then playing Houston, I wonder if they're going to try to rest him. And if they do, you have to take a look at guys like Love and Irving. I think more so Love at his price point, but Irving a definite option too. Patrick Beverley is active after dealing with a personal matter, so that eliminates him and Lawson from cash game consideration. Kyrie Irving is a tournament only for me, but if LeBron sits, I might second guess that. But I still don't think I'll love him in cash. At shooting guard, Harden at 9,800. This isn't the spot that I want to use Harden in, but he does have a tendency to step up in big games. I just think J.R. Smith's a very underrated defender at shooting guard. I mean, very underrated. Nobody takes this guy seriously as a defender, and I've seen him just fucking shut people down. Ever since he went to Cleveland, that's what he's been doing, and nobody talks about it. LeBron James, I love him, but the spread worries me. I don't know why that spread would be at 0. I don't know why it would be a wash. It's really odd. Keep looking for LeBron news throughout the day. If they say he's full of go and he's going to get us 35 minutes, I love him, and I'll roster him over Westbrook for sure, due to it being a close game. I won't play Ariza. At power forward, Tristan Thompson's a really nice option in cash or tournament. Clint Capella, no. Kevin Love, no, unless LeBron's sitting. And Terrence Jones is my favorite tournament play of the night. I was really going back and forth on playing this guy in cash. I think he's going to get 30 fantasy points at 4,800. But there's a certain volatility and risk that comes with Terrence Jones that I can't do it. I just can't put him in my cash game lineup and risk all my money on him. So Terrence Jones, my favorite tournament option of the night. Put a star by him. I like him a lot. Dwight Howard, no. Mozgov, no. And that's pretty much it, guys. It's a really difficult slate, honestly. There's not going to be a whole lot of chalky plays. And when I say chalky, I mean a guy that a lot of people are going to have. Ownership percentages should be relatively even across the board. And these are nights where I strive. So for those of you that are subscribed to NBA Daily FantasyPicks.com, I highly recommend playing my cash game lineup and feeling really good about it. I feel pretty comfortable about these kinds of slates because there's going to be a lot of variation, and the more variation, the better. And anything around 9 to 12 games, I'm virtually unbeatable. I've lost twice all season over 10 games. So don't wager your whole bankroll. I have a bankroll management video on my website. Everybody needs to watch it. If you're a new subscriber, you need to watch that video, period. It's really going to teach you how to make money. I know a lot of you joined after the 368 last night. You can't expect a 368 every fucking night. I know it was fun, and it was really good for business. But for my cash game lineup to go for 368, it's not going to happen all that often. It has happened three times this season. I've gone over 340 with my cash lineup. So, it happens. But, anyway, let's move on. I told everyone I would answer their questions. Real quick, all the fucking back and forth on Twitter, some providers calling me out, saying I'm a fraud. All my subscribers will vouch that my 82% win percentage is 100% legit. There is no bullshit going on. Some people join. I went 2 of 7 a week to a week and a half ago, and that was my worst stretch of the season. Before that, I won 14 of 16, and I've had 3 separate 7-night winning streaks. So I post my results on my website every day. Feel free to track them. I'm very open, very honest with everybody. I have no need to be a scam artist, because even if I was at 60%, people would subscribe because it's a nice percentage. So I've got a lot of questions to get to here. Let's go ahead and answer them. Marcus at Bill the Unicorn says, do you think you can do last night over again tonight? That's my question. I can, absolutely. Is it likely? No. 368s, like I said, don't happen very often. Mad DFS player at message me 2105. What do you look for when researching your lineups? That's a really broad question. I'll try to answer it as best I can. I look at matchups, I look at price points, and I look at news. And I think those are the top three things that you're going to want to evaluate when building your lineups. Dixie at Mike the Dix has asked me, notice any cash line variance in 50-50 or GPP that are filled early in the day versus late? Do you enter early in the day or wait? I enter my lineups at any point in time. I don't think there's a really big difference. I think if you enter them the day before, you might end up playing more competitive players. So maybe wait until that day of the actual slate to go that route. CJ Strong at MD Nate, what is the thought process when creating a cash versus a GPP lineup? And why does Anthony Davis have a mangina? He doesn't have a mangina. He has a vagina. He's a fucking pussy. And I don't know why. Maybe he was raised by women. I don't know. Single mother, lesbian parents. Maybe he just didn't have a father figure to teach him how to be tough, if I were to guess. I think it's a pretty good psychological assumption. Thought process in cash is low risk. That's it. You play low risk guys. GPP, high risk, high ceiling. Guys that are risky but have a definite ability to go for a high amount of points. Chad Christian, best cash centers tonight. I think it starts with Zaza Pachulia. I then think it goes to Brooke Lopez and Jan Mahimi, and then Greg Monroe probably follows suit after that. Miralem Mukic at Bozilla. Given last night's cash lineup performance, would you still recommend the contrarian lineups for GPPs? Let me differentiate my cash and GPP lines real quick. The GPP lineups are very high risk. The tournament lineups that I put up under the daily tournament plays are high risk, high reward. I don't recommend wagering a whole lot of money on those. Enter them in a few tournaments. That's what they're there for. Anyone trying to make money, go watch my bankroll management video. Do not play tournaments exclusively and expect to win in daily fantasy. It's not how it works. It's just not. I mean, I'm going to the casino and I'm playing roulette with a big edge. And if you play tournaments, you're going in and playing blackjack, against the house, but probably even worse odds than that. You're probably playing a fucking slot machine, really. If you want to play a slot machine, play tournaments. If you want to play roulette with like 30% added on to the odds, then play cash. It's that easy. But yeah, I mean, I recommend entering the tournament lineups in 1 or 2 entries, maybe 4 or 5, depending on how big your bankroll is. And I think you have to enter the optimized, my cash, and those all in tournaments. I think that's the best route to go if you have the bankroll to do it. If you only have the bankroll to pick one, I recommend the optimized lineup in tournaments. I think it's the best option. Let's see. Corey Cavender, at Cavender. Corey, are you recommending people play the optimized lineup? Not in cash, no. The optimized lineup doesn't evaluate risk and consistency like I do. So my cash game lineup is the best option for cash. But if you want to play quintuple ups, if you want to play leagues, 100-man leagues, I think the optimized is a great option, and I think it's something you should definitely consider. Looks like we've still got these plus EV Gaming. Stay away from those guys, apparently, because they are trying to call me out and say that I'm a fraud, when obviously I'm not. You guys have heard my knowledge, and you've seen the lineups. So there's not really much else to say. Haters are going to hate, and just let them fucking talk. Who cares? Don't encourage them on Twitter. Just fucking block them and go on with your day. That's what I'm doing. Let's see. Here we go. Triple R. What position do you start your roster process with in general? Is there a hierarchy of positions you want to pay up for? I don't consider position at all when I start building my roster. I consider the top plays. So I pick the guys that I like the most. For example, I'll give you my top play tonight. Cody Zeller. That's the guy I started building around this evening. and Damian Lillard, which you guys know. So those are the two guys that I'm starting my lineup with. And it doesn't have to do with position. It just has to do with how much I like them in their matchups. Marcus at Bill the Unicorn has asked me another question. Do you think Butler has another good game, 40+, or tired from last night? Jimmy Butler doesn't get tired. I think there's a rap song about Jimmy Butler. I don't get tired. I got 6 jobs. I don't get tired. Jimmy Butler doesn't get tired. Jimmy Butler's a fucking man. I mean, I don't know how much I have to keep saying it, but Jimmy Butler is the fucking man. So, that's pretty much it. Just this plus EV gaming guy trying to blacklist me on Daily Fantasy because he has nothing better to do with his life. That's it. Visit NBADailyFantasyPicks.com for lineups. I'm always very helpful on Twitter. I answer everybody's questions no matter what. Everybody can vouch for that. Message any of my subscribers, any of my followers, and ask them what kind of guy I am and what kind of lineups I provide. I run a very honest business, and I have no reason to have to bullshit anybody. 82% is my win rate at FanDuel. At DraftKings, I think we're a little over 70%. I'll be honest, I don't track it as much. And if you want to sign up for FanDuel, I highly recommend using the link at the top of my website, NBADailyFantasyPicks.com. And follow me on Twitter, at Jerico's Words. And as always, let's cash, bitches!